CV, and one of the things that I noticed is that you have worked in the area of earthquake resistant buildings as part
Yes,
of
sir.
the civil engineering project. So can you tell us what are the various zones, uh, seismic zones that we have in our country?
Yes, sir. So, country, as per the threat to the earthquake, has been divided into four zones. Earlier, it was from zone 2 to zone 5. Now, according to the new regulations, it has been renamed to zone 1 to zone 4.
And where does Delhi fall?
So, Delhi falls in zone 4, from in the zone 2 to zone 5 nomenclature.
Which have been the major earthquakes in India in the recent past, say in the last 3 decades?
So, there was a earthquake in the 2015, which rocked Nepal. Its repercussions was also found in the Indian region. There have been in 2002. I'm forgetting the exact year. There was an earthquake in Bhuj, which caused great havoc, and there was also an earthquake caused because of the reservoir-induced seismicity in Surat. So these are some of the earthquakes that have been major.
Which are the two plates that collide in India?
So there Indo-Australian plate is there, which collides with the Eurasian plate.
Eurasian plate, right. One of your hobbies is journaling. What
Yes,
do you
sir.
mean by that?
So journaling is a random writing of my thoughts. I maintain at least three journals. One is about my personal thoughts, what I have been feeling through the day. The other journal I use to track my progress in my preparation, and the other journal I keep to track my food as well as my weight.
As well as your weight.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you keep track of your health and your exercise and all that. That's
Yes,
very
sir.
good. Why don't you keep all the three journals at one place?
Sir, it depends. Sir, my food journal and the health journal are on my mobile phone. There is a application for that, so it is easy to track that. And regarding my personal day, how it went, so I like to write it in a diary without any boundaries or applications. So that way, it allows me a freedom, a creative freedom.
Tell me, what are the salient features of the Indian Constitution?
The salient features of Indian Constitution. So the features are it is one of the largest constitution in the world, one of the lengthiest constitution. Uh, it has the fundamental rights, and it also puts onus on the ruling government as well as the legislature to in the form of directive principle of state policies. Then this constitution imparts fundamental duties which citizens must abide by, and because of India is a federal nation, so there are particular delineation of center state duties, and there is an integrated as well as independent judiciary. So these are some of the salient features of the constitution.
What does the preamble of the Constitution say?
So preamble says that India is a secular, socialist, democratic republic, and it is we, the people of India, who are at the helm of this sovereign nation.
What are the main sources from where the writers of the Constitution drew uh, the basic philosophy while writing the Constitution?
So it was mainly the Government of India Act 1935, from where many of the provisions have been included. Then the Constitution of America, from where the Bill of Rights, that is the fundamental rights, have been there, and the suspension of fundamental rights during the national emergency has been imparted from the Weimar Constitution of Germany, and also the fundamental duties have been taken from the Russia USSR Constitution. So
What
it
are
has
the
been
fundamental duties? What are the fundamental duties of the citizens of India?
so some of the fundamental duties are that we must be respectful for the towards the ideals of our freedom struggle. Then we must not follow any methods that are derogatory to the women. We should have a scientific and a rational mind. We must not go for communal violence, and we must protect the national historical places. So these are some of the, and also there is about the education of the children.
Mr. Rai, over to you.
Yes. Okay, Rishabh.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rishabh. Tell me, what drew you away from civil engineering to geography, insofar as the civil services are concerned, the exam?
So it was nothing that drew me away from civil engineering. It was just what drew me towards geography. Uh, there were many things. I started my GS preparation with geography. So I got interested in this, and then I looked up to the syllabus, and it was very interesting. Plus, it had many overlap with the GS syllabus. So I thought it would be beneficial for my preparation on.
Okay. You were elected to the school parliament.
Yes, sir.
Was it a direct or an indirect election?
So it was a direct election.
It was a direct election.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, from your seismic designing interest, which countries have advanced knowledge and experience in this field? Which two countries have very advanced knowledge of seismic designing?
So one is Japan. Japan has done a lot. Also USA, since it is among the Pacific Ring of Fire, USA has also advanced in the earthquake engineering.
Okay. Now you opted for the IFS at number 3, Indian
Yes, sir.
Foreign Service. Is it a All India service?
No, it is not, sir.
Which are the All India services?
So Indian Administrative Services, Indian Police Services, and Indian Forest Services.
Do they have a separate set of rules to guide the conduct of the officers belonging to the All India services and to the central services?
So there is a civil service conduct rules, but I'm not sure whether it is different for all India.
Different for the two of them. Okay. Okay. Now, what are India's chances or hopes to get into the Security Council of the UN?
So India has been fighting hard diplomatic. There is in the G4, as well as we are talking with France as well as USA. But there is a resistance from P5. There is also a resistance from United for Consensus Club, the coffee club which we call. So uh, we must be optimistic towards the United Nations Security Council reforms, but we have to put pressure on that.
What are the different theories of the origin of Earth?
So there are few theories which I can remember. One was the planetesimal theory, where it was, I'm not able to recall the planetesimal theory. There was a nebular hypothesis where it was believed that Earth was a nebula, and then it started concretizing, it started cooling down, and that's how different layers of Earth were formed.
Now, in human geography, what is Malthusian and what is the Marxian theory?
The Malthusian theory is related to the population and its unprecedented growth. So Malthus believes that the population is going to rise exponentially. It is going to grow as a geometric progression, while the food resources are going to grow at arithmetic progression. So there are going to be food scarcity. However, Marx was not a direct comment on population. It
Yeah.
was a comment on the capitalistic structure. However, the theory of population is underlying in that scene. So he said that the poor people are more prone to reproducing more, and these people lead to higher population growth.
In geography, what is Max Weber's model of industrial location?
So Max Weber's industrial location uh, identifies the resources and the market, and it determines how an industry must be located so as to minimize the cost. Later, he also incorporated the role of skilled labor and agglomeration. So, how these factors are determined in the industrial location.
In oceanography, what is El Nino and what is La Nina?
So, these are anomalies in the oceanic surface. In general, the Peruvian current near the South America is cold, but in anomalous situation, it becomes warm, and this leads to the reversal of the Walker cell. So this has global repercussion. The El Nino can lead to decreased monsoon in India, whereas La Nina can lead to floods.
How do you view the ongoing conflict in the West Asian region, the Israel and the? How do you view that? Is it likely to escalate, or is it likely to be? I mean, what is the geopolitical scenario of it?
So given the newspaper that I've been following in the last week, it has been escalating, and there are no signs that these Hamas as well as Israel is going to negotiate. However, US is pressuring as well as India has also asked for de-escalation of these tensions. The reasons are many. There is the Palestine issue has become a no issue, and Hamas has a support from Iran, and there are tensions between Iran and Israel too. Also, in Israel, there is a political atrophy. Uh, the leadership is accused of allegations, so there has been political instability, and they are going too far right in order to win the consensus. However, Israel is also divided, so we have to see how the global community puts them on the table and negotiate.
Now, two more questions. Rishabh, tell me, if you were posted to a district in the capacity of a district collector, which is very, and that district is very prone to natural calamities, what
Okay.
what would you have in place so that in case of a unfortunate natural calamity visiting that area or that district, that you would immediately energize and control the situation?
Uh, so it would depend upon the kind of natural calamity that the region is prone to, and depending upon that, I will coordinate with the state disaster management authority, and there are national disaster management authority guidelines too, which must be followed. So there has to be focus on warning, there has to be focus on monitoring. So I think the awareness generation among the people, and there must be proper rehabilitation centers in case the calamity occurs. Also, being a civil engineer, my focus would be on disaster resilient infrastructure, so that in case of a calamity, there is not much impact.
Okay. Uh, how how does your journaling, how will that help you as a civil servant?
So journaling I started during the pandemic when there was a lot of uncertainty and there was a lot of negativity in me. So I used to put down these in my paper, and that used to clear my head. So journaling over a time, when I look back, it shows me how I have grown as a person. So this is the thing which is going to help me in civil services as well. When I look back, the things I could have done better and the things I am doing better now. So this will boost my confidence as well as I'll be on a right path.
In retrospect, would you consider that our non-aligned movement posturing has been the correct approach?
So at the time when non-alignment policy was formulated, it was the right approach. We could not afford to join any of the two blocks. However, today India is a force to reckon with. We are a global. We are emerging as a global power. So we have to form issue-based coalitions. We cannot be confined to the non-alignment, and this has been even said by Honorable Foreign Minister Jaishankar that the India's growth is curtailed only by the dogmas of our past. We have to form the issue-based coalitions, and we are doing it right now.
How would you rate our attempts to shore up our non-conventional energy sources?
So attempts are being made. We have a national action plan on climate change. There is a national solar mission. We are also uh, there has been a rampant growth on the solar energy since 2014. Also, we are doing on the wind generation, and there has been, I'm not able to recall, by Niti Aayog about the India as a hydrogen making country, India being dependent on the hydrogen fuel. Plus, our nationally determined contributions in the Paris Agreement are in very much in line with the uh, uh, promoting the non-conventional sources of energy.
And our foray into global warming?
Sorry, sir.
Global warming. Have we taken the correct steps? Are we in the correct direction?
Sir, I think we are doing what we can do with the limited resources and the technology, and I think we'll also do better in the near future with growth in research and development.
My last question, Rishabh. What are the causes and consequences of migration?
So the causes are both push causes as well as the pull causes. The push causes usually occur in the areas where there is lack of industrialization, where there is agricultural distress. So it occurs in the semi-skilled and unskilled section of the labor. However, there are also pull causes, which occurs mostly in the skilled labor or the semi-skilled. It is mostly urban to urban or rural to urban, depending upon the scenario. The consequences of migration are it changes the demography of both the places. It is beneficial to the area where the migration is coming because of the skilled labor, and it also it leads to feminization of agriculture and feminization of economy from where the migration is taking place. These are some of the consequences.
Uh, Very good. My last question. What are the special economic zones created for the SEZs?
So special economic zones were created to boost our this model has taken. Sir, can you hear my voice? Hello, sir.
Yes. Rishabh, go
Is
ahead.
my voice audible? Okay. So special economic zones were created to boost our exports and to focus on the manufacturing. This model was taken from the good examples of Shenzhen region of China. So in this context, we created special economic zones.
Very good. Arvind Mohan Saab.
Okay. So Rishabh, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, you are currently in Ghaziabad, but you belong to Muzaffarnagar. That's what I see from your desk. So could
Yes,
you
sir.
tell me about these two places, what they are famous for, and at the same time, what they are notorious for?
So first, I'll like to talk about Muzaffarnagar, where I was born. So Muzaffarnagar is famous for its sugar production and the jaggery production. It is also being promoted under the One District, One Program, One Product of UP government. And Ghaziabad is famous for its engineering groups. And its since it is proximity, it has a proximity to Delhi. So the whole uh, the labor market and the economy is thriving in the industrial area. Regarding the Ghaziabad is infamous for crimes. The safety of women is an issue here, and similarly in Muzaffarnagar, there have been issues of communal riots, and also the safety of women is also an issue there.
What has been the impact of these sugar mills on Muzaffarnagar?
So the sugar mills have created employment. Sugar mills has also led to the farmer politics related to the sugar cane, because there is a state assured price which is given. So this becomes a pressure group, and it is a big vote bank for the politics. So it has impacted the politics as well as economics.
So, what are the, I would say, problems being faced by sugar industry right now in Muzaffarnagar?
So sugar industry, because it has to purchase from farmers at a higher price, and the selling price of sugar is lower, so they are undergoing losses. That's why there are a lot of arrears that the sugar mills have. So they are undergoing losses. Plus, there is a lot of political interference in the cooperative sector. This is one of the reasons why sugar industries are moving towards the south. That is Maharashtra region. These are some few of the problems.
Okay. You could have been a very good civil engineer also, but
Yes.
what made you go for IAS?
So I came to IIT to become a civil engineer. However, it was when my batchmates started preparing for this exam, and I saw an interview of Mr. Gaurav Agarwal, who left a very high-paying job to become a civil servant, IAS officer, and this intrigued me. What an IAS officer does. So after proper research, what I think is that an IAS officer has the power, has the functions as well as the finances, that if he is of right intent, he can really bring about substantial changes. And this is what I want to do, sir. Plus, during this pandemic, the way the IAS officers and even the IPS officers have acted proactively, it has strengthened my drive to become an IAS officer.
So, talking about pandemic, what are your views on the lockdowns?
So lockdowns are a necessary evil that were put in place to break the chain of transmission of virus. It has its impact on the economy, the negative impact that we all saw during the first lockdown. It has impact even on the family dynamics, where we saw that domestic cases of violence against women were rising. So it has both its pros and cons.
So, what are your views on this, the way it is being implemented? Don't you think there have to be some guidelines to guide the state governments on when to have a lockdown and when not to have a lockdown?
Sir, I think yes, there should have been guidelines. However, pandemics are once in a century kind of catastrophe. So we have learned over the mistakes. Now earlier it was central government imposed lockdowns. Now we have delegated that authority to the state governments. But yes, there should be certain guidelines that, depending upon the positivity rate or the number of cases, certain hotspots could be stricter lockdown, while other regions could have a milder lockdown.
Okay, you designed earthquake resistant building. You
Yes,
made a
sir.
project on that. So, what are the characteristics or considerations for designing such a building?
So earthquake resistance building must have a strength to bear the shear pressure, because in earthquake there is both the vertical pressure as well as the horizontal pressure. The vertical pressure is balanced by the gravity, but there is nothing to balance the horizontal pressure. So we must be sure that there are proper dampeners, there is proper ductile materials that are in place, in the buildings in order to counteract that shear force.
So what are your views on the coming up of these high-rise buildings near Yamuna, which is basically a damp area?
Yes, sir. So I think any civil engineering structure is done by proper assessment, and they might have done the proper survey of the soil, whether it will be able to take the load. And since Delhi is in zone 4, so I think proper guidelines must be there.
Are they already there, or you are saying they must be there?
So they are there, but we must always focus on how to improve these things. There are new materials coming on every day. There is research going on. So we must incorporate these things too.
You were also a publicity head. What were you publicizing?
So it was a technical fest of civil engineering department called SHIL.
So when we have to publicize some things, what are the basic steps that we have to follow?
Uh, so whenever we have to publicize, we have to make sure that the thing that we are publicizing is worth it, that it grabs the attention of the masses. So since IIT is a big institution, so it was already had a public view. So it was easy for us. So I made a team of three people. One group went to the schools. One group was managing the social media, and other group was managing the publicity within the institution and the areas around. So we have to focus on the target audience. We have to focus on the kind of product that we have about any kind of publicity.
Thank you. Rishabh.
Thank you.
Rishabh? I think he's not listening. Rishabh, can we start with the feedback?
Yes. Rishabh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You can. Okay.
So let me just grab the notebook.
Yes. Yes.
I'll write it in my journal.
Yes, you should.
Yes, sir.
To begin with, you did not wait to be asked to be seated.
Yes, sir. I realized
But
once
just, I mean, we are just pointing out so that when you go for the final round, you don't miss out on these small nuances. That was one. Even I noticed your movement of the hand was very, it was movement of the hands. So ideally, there is still time for you for the interview to go. You practice with your hands clasped like this, or seated on the armrest, so that you don't tend to gesture with your hands while answering a question. Okay. Okay, Rishabh, you got me? Rishabh, can you hear me? Rishabh,
His connection is
आवाज
lost.
आ रही है? Rishabh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the connection broke down.
You heard my second observation about the movement, gesturing of hands.
So please, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I will. I noticed a lot of gesturing of your hands while attempting to answer the questions. So while there is still time, you practice. That's a very small thing that you will be able to handle. Either putting your hand on the armrest or clasping your hands like you did just now, so that there is no tendency or no temptation to gesture with your hands while answering a question. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Second. Third, when the chairman Saab asked you a question on the constitution,
Yes,
he had to prompt you twice to go on the main focus area. That is, first was the sources. When you were answering the question on the constitution, I think you should have started with the sources, from where we have drawn the sources to write the constitution. That was one. Second
Yes,
was
sir.
the preamble. Ideally,
Yes.
in order of preference, you can mention the preamble. That gives you a glimpse of what is going to come. That's the preamble.
Yes, sir.
And it also holds the secular and other concepts that will find prominence in the reading of the Constitution. Third,
Yes, sir.
on the lockdown, you use a word necessary evil. It may be okay in an informal sort of a situation or
Okay.
a discussion that will go, but ideally, none of the states have used the word necessary evil. It may be so, but ideally, you can use a softer word, say a very difficult choice, Hobson's choice,
Okay, sir.
something like that, instead of the word evil. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Because
Understood.
after all, it's a state mechanism and the state is resorting to it. So it cannot be, the state cannot be choosing an evil option. That
Okay, sir.
Now, having said that, hand movement, okay. Of course, I didn't find time, or I should have put you some questions on ukulele. I mean, that's a passion with you. So, but you can expect questions on that as to what is the origin, how many strings it has, what
Yes,
is who are the prominent players of this instrument,
Yes, sir.
because it's a very uncommon sort of extracurricular activity, finding mention, and a passion for music is, of course. Now, in one of the questions, Rishabh, I was a bit disappointed. Going by the answers that you were giving was very excellent. You gave very good answers to most of the questions, but on one, the disaster. When I asked you as to what you would do in a situation of disaster,
Yes, sir.
you did mention civil engineering, as
Yes, sir.
that would come in handy to you, but you did not mention geography. See,
Yes, sir.
you get an
Yes, sir.
opportunity to put your best foot forward, then ideally, and you having the unique opportunity or the skill sets of both, having learned geography, having written the examination as an optional for geography, and grounded into civil engineering, you should have mentioned both.
Both.
And geography
Okay,
gives
sir.
you a good opportunity, especially in a natural disaster, how to
Yes, sir.
anticipate which are the zones you would, so that would be a very well-rounded reply. So that is about all. Otherwise, I found your answer even to the UN non-aligned movement. You gave a very good answer. That was very proper answer that I expected. And of course, this Security Council to the UN, that also very balanced approach you had. I'm impressed by your answers. That's about all.
Thank you, sir.
All the best, Rishabh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Rishabh, it was a very good interaction we had with you.
Thank you,
And I was very much impressed by your answers as well as the level of knowledge that you had on various subjects.
Thank you, sir.
And some of the things have already been told to you by Rishabh. You have to just take care of that. You are already talking like a civil servant in a very balanced, calm and composed manner, and just keep it up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, Neeraj sir.
I will ditto whatever has been said by the other two members. But Rishabh, how do you feel about the interview and about your performance in the interview?
Sir, I think it was better than the mocks that I have given earlier. With practice, I'm improving. But yes, I have to improve on certain things. This I was noticing while giving an interview. Plus, I thought that while speaking, there were certain fillers that I was using. If you noticed, like, was I using it too much, or my sentences were in coherence? So I
Mind
was
your
getting
hand
conscious.
movement.
Yes,
Mind
my
your
hand
hand
movement.
movement.
Your
I'll
hand.
control.
So, how many mock interviews have you given already?
The two.
Two. Okay. I would suggest that don't give too many because then you will get very confused. You know. So
Yes, sir.
you are absolutely fine. You have a very impressive presence. You articulate very well. You are well informed, and one or two errors you have committed, but which are very small errors which you can easily correct. For instance, when you walked in, you should have waited. After walking in, you did not wish the board. You should have wished the board good morning,
Yes,
good
sir.
afternoon, whatever
Yes,
it is, and then stood there for a moment, and you would have been asked to sit down, and then you should have sat down. And
Yes,
as
sir.
has been pointed out, keep your hands to yourself. Keep it under the table,
Yes, sir.
or so that whatever movement there are, it is not visible to the board. So that
Okay.
is a very important thing that you can do. Your answers to the earthquake questions, I'm sure you realize could have been better. You should have known
Yes,
that
sir.
the Bhuj earthquake took place in 2001 on Republic
2001.
Day, on a
Yes,
very
sir.
important day, the Republic Day. And also some of the other related issues. So these are, these are issues, these are questions that will be asked. So you should be prepared with them. Your answers to my questions on the Indian Constitution ought to have been much better. Salient
sir.
features you should have known 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Major sources, again, what are the major sources you should have said. You did well by saying Government of India Act of 1935, but then, there was other major sources which you missed and you went to some other which were minor sources. Otherwise, on the whole, you are a very good candidate. You make an impression. You have a good presence. You have a good body language. You exude confidence. And I would suggest that you are doing fine. You should be confident with yourself. And do mention us in your journal when you write this evening of what
Your
you
voice.
thought of the interview. And did you hear me? Did you?
So the last part just got cut off. There is some
No,
connection problem.
I just spoke in a lighter vein that I'm sure you will write about today's interview in your journal,
Yes, sir.
where we will find a mention, a
Yes, sir.
fleeting mention. So
Yes,
I
sir.
wish you all the best
Thank you, sir.
on behalf of the board. I'm sure you will do well. All the best
Thank
to
you
you.
so much, sir. Thank you so
All
much,
the
sir.
best. All the best.
Good afternoon.
Okay. All the
Thank
best,
you. All
Rishabh.
the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.